eyes wide open. Deep in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, something ancient lingers. Whispers in the fog, footsteps on empty trails, and shadows that don't belong. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
What's out there? I have asked this question so many times. You know, as a little kid, you're just given these rules and you follow them because that's what you do. But as you get older, you start questioning things like, why am I not allowed to whistle in the woods? How come as soon as it gets dark, Mom starts pulling all the curtains closed? And then you start to have bizarre experiences, and your friends start to have strange things happen to them. And then you start reading the stories of people going missing and never found. Their bodies never recovered. It's just like they vanished into thin air. So to answer your question, yeah, there's animals. There's people in the woods that live off the grid away from society. But I don't think those things are causing all of these strange occurrences. Truth is, I don't know what it is. And when I ask people that are much older and much wiser than me, they seem very hesitant to talk about it. I follow the rules. What do you think's the cause of all of these missing people?
So this right here, that's a blaze. It's 2 inches by 6 inches. That's what we follow. They're everywhere. They may be on a bridge. They may be on a tree. They're usually always on trees, but sometimes they're on the ground, on a rock, on a building, on a light post. That's what we follow. This morning, I didn't follow it. I wasn't paying attention. Hold on a second. Something's walking through the woods. I wasn't paying attention. I lost it. I just kept walking. I went about at least a mile. I wasted, well, it was more than a mile because it was about an hour of my time going the wrong way down a different trail. And then when I found the trail, I went the wrong way on that. I saw the blaze, but I didn't look at my app to see if I was going north or south. So I went south for a little while. Now I'm going the right way. So the moral of the story is pay attention. Don't make a phone call and walk. That's not a good idea. Especially when there's roads and little fire roads everywhere that make it very easy to go the wrong way. So I got up early. I was walking by 7:15 this morning. I wasted an entire hour of that. And it's going to rain really badly today, but it's okay. I'm fine. I'm back on the trail.
I don't know what to do because I'm really scared I'm going to pass out. But I see a road below me that I've been able to hear for a while. And I'm thinking about going to the road, but I also don't want to get off the trail in case I pass out. I don't want them to find me. I really don't feel good. And I've been alone for a long time. So now there's a dirt road going down to the road, but I still don't know who would pick me up, and I'm by myself. I don't know if I should just wait here. Keep going. I don't think I can walk another 14 miles, so I'm walking this dirt path down to the road and hoping that some nice person will pick me up and take me there.
Alright, just be careful. Easy, easy.
Is it that or is it this?
Huh?
Let's see if I see any paint over here.
I don't know. Oh, she!
Oh my god.
Oh!
Be careful.
I almost went all the way down. Well, you know, I'm a big guy. Guess we gotta go down.
No, the wind is up here.
Yeah, but there's nothing.
Yeah, there is.
Hey.
Ah, bees!
Savage adventures, man. Your guess is as good as mine. We're just gonna go for it. Hopefully we find the stupid thing. We're out here in the middle.
There's shoe prints up here.
There's shoe prints? Alright, good. This is insane in the brain. Look at this. This isn't even like... Yeah, the lady down there was like, yeah, there's roots. There's roots. No, there's a heck of a lot more than roots. hard. This trail being difficult is an understatement. Like,
yeah, yellow, this way.
Alright, cool. We're sitting there trying to find markers and stuff on trees to know where we're going so we don't get lost back here. Because obviously none of this is actual, like, trail. I mean, it's trail, I suppose, for, like wilderness hikers. This is insanity. What a trail to get here, though. Guys, it's no joke. It's definitely no joke.
Okay, I was only supposed to be gone for like an hour, and I don't know where I'm at. Turned around, staying at a cabin. I know on the information. Rainier, don't go too far ahead. They said like the neighbors weren't really friendly. And I don't. Okay, I'm gonna like turn the camera off and try to get out of here because this is clearly somebody's house and don't know where I'm at. Okay, now it's raining, the sun's setting, and the mud's really slick, and I'm still lost. Okay, so it's raining way harder. Sun is set. Don't have my headlamp. I guess I can use my phone. Okay, I think I know where I'm at. Like, I do. I don't have a whole lot of battery left because I didn't expect to be gone this long. I keep hearing something up in the trees. I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty sure I can see the cabin. I don't know. I just keep hearing this noise up there. I'm just gonna try to. Okay, I see the cabin. Okay, I'm just trying to get in. I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, it's still outside. Okay. All right, there's something out there. I'm just trying to like get the door shut, get in here. My dog's going crazy. There is something out there. It's okay. Rainier. Shh. It's okay. Shh. Shh. Rainier. Oh, God. Rainier, wait.
When I was a kid, my brother and I decided to go hiking in the woods behind my family's house. We grew up in a really small town where there was really nothing to do, so the woods was not really an unfamiliar territory for us. Especially this woods in particular, because like I said, it was behind our family's house. This day in particular, confidence overtook us, and we decided to wander a little bit too far into the woods, into a portion that we had never actually been to. We did end up actually getting lost because we found ourselves like not knowing how to get back. By that point, it was starting to get kind of dark outside. So, it was making visibility even worse. As we're wandering around the area trying to figure out where we are, we end up coming across this hunter's cabin. It was really creepy, guys. It was like something you can only imagine would be in a movie. It looked like an abandoned old hunter's cabin. If you know what a hunter's cabin is, it's not really like an enclosed area. It's more of just like some sort of shelter, like some form of shelter, but there's one side that's completely open. Since it was getting really dark outside and we had no idea where we were at that point, we had no choice, or we felt that we had no choice, but to hunker down in this abandoned hunter's cabin for the night. We could try our luck again in the morning on trying to find our way home. At first, everything was normal, I'd say. Like, we were really scared anyways in the situation that we were in, but at that moment, like, everything was quiet and serene and we were feeling okay. But after a while of being in there, we started to hear noises coming from outside the shack. Started to hear scraping against the walls of the outside of that little cabin, twigs snapping all around, and heavy breathing. The sound wasn't human at all, and it wasn't very animalistic. It was more of like a deep gurgling sound. My brother and I just sat there frozen, looking at each other like, what the is that? Then my brother, who's like maybe 10 years old at the time, gets up and peeks his head around the corner of the open side of the cabin. Reached for him and I tried to grab onto him, whispering like, what are you doing? Get back here, dude. But he just had this look on his face and I knew I wasn't going to convince him otherwise. He just had this look like he had to see what was out there and there was no stopping him. Sticks his head out for about 2 seconds before he slings his body back around the corner and just like pins himself up against the wall and's looking at me with this look of complete fear on his face. He's starting to cry. There's like visible tears running down his face at this point. And he just looks at me and through his terror and shaky voice, he says, we have to run now. We have to get out of here now. I was not about to argue because whatever he had seen had him so shook it brought this boy to tears. He does not cry that easily. He's never been one to cry over anything. And I've thrown a glass cup at his head. As we're getting ready to bolt, I start to smell this disgusting, rotten, disgusting smell. I can smell it just in my memory. It was like something had died in the desert heat and had just been sitting out to rot in the sun. By the look on my brother's face, he could smell it too. So we ran as fast as our little legs could carry us. We ran, I think, as hard as we ever had in our entire lives at that point. As we were running, I could hear my brother's footsteps beside me, but I could also hear crashing from behind us, like something big was following us. I didn't dare turn my head around because I did not want to be the one in the horror movie who just falls over in a time like that. But we didn't stop until we got out of the woods. We didn't come out where we had come in. We had come out actually like miles and miles away on the complete opposite side of where we had come in. Like we had come out on a completely opposite side of town and we were a couple miles away from home at that point. But hey, at least we were out of those woods right now. We escaped whatever that was in there and that was all that mattered at that point. We finally caught our breath. I begged my brother to tell me what he had seen. He wouldn't even look me in the eyes as he was telling me. He said it was this tall thing with the legs of a horse. It had really long arms with really sharp fingers. And that specifically, they weren't fingernails, they weren't claws. It was the fingers themselves that were sharp, apparently. Once he got to this next part, he was stuttering because he was like, I don't think you're going to believe me at all. And I looked him dead in the face and I said, bro, that reaction that you gave, I will believe anything that you tell me right now. He goes on to tell me that he saw that it had like the head of a wolf. It was like uncanny valley version, you know what I mean? Like it was a wolf, but it didn't really look like a wolf. It sort of did. It was giving wolf. It wasn't a human and it wasn't an animal and it was looking directly at him in his eyes. To this day, neither one of us really have any explanation as to what we saw other than an SW or a Wendigo. I don't know. What do you think it was? I still have no explanation and it keeps me up every time I think about it.
You need to leave now. You need to leave now. I'm letting them out. Don't come any closer. I'm going to let them out.
You don't have to let them out.
I'm going to let them out.
Don't do that.
They're here and they're waiting.
Don't do that.
I'm going to leave. The police has been looking for it for 4 days now. There's no one around. This is my place. I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know where you're coming from.
I just came to bless you.
I'm letting my dogs out.
Don't do that.
She disappeared.
Please let me know. Shine behind us. I was hearing it the entire
Yeah, I'll tell you, just keep shining the light forward.
This is one of the most horrifying things. Who was screeching at us in the woods? Who?
I don't know.
Who?
I don't know.
What the happened?
Guys, I don't know. The guy, whatever spirit was at the church told us we will get attacked if we leave the church. I've never in my life had something like that happen to us, bro.
You hear the screams and howling?
Yes.
Something was screaming and howling. Come here, Noah, this way.
Okay, reporting to you live from literally only 3 miles into the approach trail. Way harder than I anticipated. I can't even lie. On the bright side, I'm way stronger than I anticipated, so kind of evens itself out. I'm just chugging along. I'm trying to go like, you know, as long as I can, little 20-30 minute stretches, and then I'll sit down for 5 minutes, and then I'll go 20-30 minutes, sit down for 5 minutes. I'm just trying to keep moving. I know at the end of tonight, my bag will be lighter because I'm going to eat dinner, and then in the morning I'll eat breakfast. And I had to start out with 2 liters of water because when I got on the approach trail, the next place I can get water is 6 miles. So I know tomorrow morning I'll have less water with me. It's going to be easier. Anyway, my 5 minutes is up. On we go. I had so much confidence in myself. I really just thought I was going to strap a backpack on my back and walk to Maine. I'm a crazy person. Anyway, here's my backpack. Here's what the most of the trail looks like. My bag is 32.5 pounds. I have some regrets. This is kind of off. Look, we're gonna go up this whole mountain to the top of the mountain. But let me show you where we just were. Look, you see that? I just went all the way up and then all the way down that mountain, and I got to the bottom of that mountain. Another mountain, and I really did expect this. Okay, you can laugh if you want, but it's kind of pissing me off. We are back on track. 45 minutes is a lot of time to lose. I'm kind of regretting that.
This is the hardest day of my life. I can't even lie.
So tell me why Haley stay up here in the Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee. See, this the first time I've been up here to her crib, bruh. She done came to my house the last, she be coming back my way. Bruh, I'm driving up through these mountains right now, and I ain't gonna lie to y'all, this guy be spooked like a soldier. Hey, I'm trying to keep my eyes straight, and that's why I'm on here talking to y'all. I'm driving through it, bro. The house is little. I'm really scared to look out the window, bro. I'm scared I'm gonna look out the window and it's gonna be something running beside my truck that's gonna have a face that I ain't seen before, bro. I ain't never heard no good story about the Appalachian Mountains, Appalachia, whatever they call, bro. I'm trying to get out of them, and I ain't lying, bro. If something happened to me, bro, pray for me, bro. Pray for me, please. She gonna have to move back down toward Mississippi.
Keep left.
Siri, look, we ain't got time for that. I'm telling y'all, she gonna have to come to me. She gonna have to come back down my way. I ain't coming up here. No.
Don't know if it's gonna do it. I mean, you can see the lights on. I'm sitting here in the middle of the woods. No one around. Just me and a fire. About 5 minutes ago, some decent-sized animal ran on the other side of my van. And then about a couple minutes go by, and my car locks all by itself and honks twice. And I think, that's weird. 5-6 minutes go by, and it just did it again. Now, my keys, I have not moved a thing. I swear on Jesus, I did not move a thing. Nowhere am I near that. It's facing out. It's not like it's hitting anything. Nothing. My phone's like on 3%. Now, like, my hand's right here. My other one's holding the phone. I'm ready to book out of here. Hey, guys. So, as soon as my phone died, it happened again. And I got into my van. And I made sure all my window covers were on. In the front, I cover the windshield, but there's usually, gaps on either side. And I have another piece to put up, but I usually don't. Well, I made sure everything was tight, everything's locked, and knock on wood, it hasn't happened again. But it happened a total of, 3 or 4 times? 1, and then 2, and then 3. 3 or 4, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, creepiest thing ever. So, I'm in my van, and I feel safe.
My husband and I went hiking on North Carolina's Road to Nowhere, and we lost 2 hours. A few months after we got married, my husband and I took a weekend trip to Bryson City. We had heard about this place called the Road to Nowhere and decided to take the trail past the tunnel. If you've never been there, it's already unsettling. You drive to the end of this quiet mountain road, and there's a huge unfinished tunnel cut straight into the mountain. No lights, no sounds, just darkness. People hike through it all the time, so we thought nothing of it. It was late afternoon when we got there, still plenty of daylight. We walked through the tunnel with our flashlights and came out on the trail on the other side. At first it was beautiful, quiet mountain woods, cool air, nothing unusual. We hiked maybe 20 minutes before I started feeling strange. Not sick, just uneasy. Like that instinctive feeling you get when something is wrong and you don't know why. I asked my husband if he felt it too. He got quiet for a moment and said, "It's way too quiet out here." And he was right. No birds, no insects, no moving around, nothing. Complete silence. And then we noticed a trail ahead looking wrong somehow, curved sharply left around this cluster of trees. But when we rounded it, we were staring at the exact same cluster of trees. Same broken branch hanging low, same exposed roots, same strange split in the trunk. We laughed nervously and assumed there had been another bend we hadn't noticed. Then it happened again and again, 4 times. The exact same trees, and at that point my husband stopped walking. He looked genuinely scared, and he never scares easily. That's when we heard footsteps behind us, slowly, steady, crunching through the leaves, like someone was walking the trail towards us. We turned around expecting another hiker, but we saw no one. But the footsteps kept coming, closer. I grabbed my husband's arm and said we needed to go. We turned and started walking fast back the way we came. The footsteps followed, always behind us, never close enough to see, just matching our pace. When the tunnel finally came into view, both of us started running. The second we stepped inside, the footsteps stopped, completely, and we didn't slow down until we were at the back of the truck. I checked my phone, 6:14. We started hiking at 4:23. There's absolutely no way we were out there for almost 2 hours. It felt like maybe 30 minutes. Then my phone lit up with missed calls from my mom. The first one was sent at 5:02. It said, "This is random, but are you okay? I feel like something is wrong with you." There were 3 more after that asking why I wasn't answering. I called her immediately, but before I could say anything, she said, "Please tell me you left wherever you were." To this day, neither of us can explain what happened on that trail, and neither of us will ever hike past that tunnel again. I looked it up later, and apparently people have reported hearing footsteps on that trail for years.
So I live near the Appalachian Trail, and I have always lived near the Appalachian Trail. I don't live in Appalachia itself. So me and my cousin Kai decided to go camping/hiking in the main portion of the Appalachian Trail, which is like near the White Mountains and whatnot. Basically, we started up in Maine, and we were going to make our way down to New Hampshire. And then once we got to New Hampshire portion, we were going to turn around and go back to Maine. Everything was going super smoothly for the first 3 days. It was super tranquil, super calm. Like, I was loving it. We were both loving it. But the 4th night is when things started to get a little bit not so kosher. On the 4th night, we ended up making our dinner. We had some ramen noodles. We set up our tents. We had separate tents. We were sleeping in separate tents. So we set those up and just kind of went about our night. I remember I popped out a book because I didn't like to just go to sleep. I like to relax and listen to the sounds of the forest before I went to sleep and read my book. So in my own tent, I was sitting there with my little book light on, just reading away, having the time of my life. Yeah, I was happily reading my book until all of a sudden I heard whistling. Like legit whistling out in the middle of nowhere. And at first I was thinking, okay, maybe it's Kai just like trying to get my attention. So I yelled out to her. I was like, "Yo, was that you?" She didn't answer me, of course. And that's when my stomach sank straight down to my toes because I just realized that I had answered something that I couldn't see in the Appalachian woods. So after I had that realization, I just kind of sat there and I was sitting with my thoughts and I'm like, did you really just do that? Like, you know the lay of the land and you know you're not supposed to do that. Why did you do that? It's really hard not to answer something that you hear in the woods, okay? Like, or anywhere in general. Like, it's just instinct to answer. I'm sorry. But anyways, a few minutes later, I start to hear like these bipedal footsteps around my tent. They were heavy and they were deliberate. They were not like the sporadic little pitter patter of like a raccoon or even the big stomps of a bear. It was definitely 2 feet, 100% 2 feet. At that point, I was just really scared. So I called out to Kai again. I just needed support. Okay. I needed to know that she was okay. Or I just needed to like feel like she was with me on this. Like I didn't want to feel like I was alone, but I still got no answer. I was sitting in my tent, just like frozen, like scared as to even move. I forgot that my book light was on. And then as I'm sitting there, just like waiting, listening to the footsteps, they all of a sudden stop. A couple seconds went by and then all of a sudden the footsteps started up again. This time they were coming closer and closer and closer to my tent in particular. And as I'm sitting there panicking, full blown like sweating in my boots, I start to see a shadow form over my tent. And I don't know if the light of my book light like just made it kind of more distorted than it actually was or what, but it was like tall, lanky, and its arms were super long, and it smelled really bad. Like it smelled like death, decay, and also a pile of landfill dog. But I'm sitting there and I'm watching the walls of my tent in absolute terror when all of a sudden I see a hand press down on the top of the tent. The thing is pushing when all of a sudden I see like something try to poke through the tent, and it kind of reminded me of like a scorpion's like stinger thing. You know what I mean? Like just like it was like, and it went right through my tent. It posted a hole right through my tent. I don't know if it was like a curious or what, because it didn't do anything further from that. It poked its finger in there and then quickly pulled back and then like skittered off into the woods. When I say that thing bolted, I mean that it bolted faster than anything that could be human. Think spider crab, but on 2 legs. Somehow, and don't even ask me how, I ended up falling asleep after that whole incident. I think I was just really tired. I was trying to stay awake, but I woke up the next morning. When I woke up the next morning, I practically flew out of my tent to go talk to Kai and see if she had like seen anything or heard anything of the same thing that I did. When I asked her that, her face went completely snow white. Like all color drained from this girl's face. She said that she had also been woken up by the whistling, and she had also heard me calling her name, but she was way too scared to answer me. So she was in her tent just sitting there kind of like watching everything go down from her little tent window flap. But the description of what she saw, it's literally something straight out of your worst nightmare. She said that she saw this big figure kind of just like looming over my tent. She said it had antlers, it had hooves, it had legs like a horse, and its body was kind of like thick, muscular, built kind of like a bull. She said it was standing up on its hind legs and that its arms were super long and gangly and kind of resembled wolf-like arms with really sharp, long claws. And when she said the long claws part, I grabbed her by her wrist and I dragged her over to my tent and I showed her the hole that the creature had made in my tent. That was it. That was our decision. We were done. We were gone. We cut our trip short and we packed up our shit and we started hiking back. Remember, we were 4 days out on this trail. We had a 4-day long hike and camp to get back to our car. Thankfully, nothing else creepy happened though. We made it back. Obviously, I'm here to tell the story. But yeah, needless to say, I haven't really been back to the Appalachian Mountains in a really long time. And I will say that not every time that you go to the Appalachian Mountains, something will happen to you. But there are a lot of stories. There are a lot of people on this earth. Yeah, I still don't really understand what it could have been. I mean, I have a couple ideas.
If you sleep alone at night or if you scare easily, you might want to just keep on scrolling. My little baby cousin has been seeing ghosts. Y'all may have remembered me talking about my cousin who used to see and talk to ghosts whenever she was little. If you don't remember, basically she had 3 ghost friends that lived in her house. One would come out of the walls and its skin fell off. That's creepy enough. Okay, and the second one lived in her closet and he was really mean, so she didn't talk to him much. And then the third one was just her best friend and she like roamed out throughout the whole house. And my aunt would always catch her like trying to hand stuff to nothing. Like she'd be walking past her room and she would catch her like handing toys or crayons to like nothing. But as soon as Hannah would see my aunt, she would just drop whatever it was she had and act like she wasn't playing with her or imaginary friends or ghost friends or whatever they were. My aunt eventually caught on and realized that it was ghosts that she was talking to. She was asking her questions about them, like trying to figure out, you know, if she could figure out who they were or whatever, because she knows a lot of history about our land. We live in Appalachia. We live on haunted family land that's been passed down for about 200 years. History runs deep. There's even stories from back then, 200 years ago, or at least 100 years ago, of this land being haunted. So it's like always been haunted. Hannah goes on to tell her that her best friend that roams the house said that she was outside playing catch with her dad and there's a creek on our property. And she said she broke the ice with the ball. And so she like went in to get the ball and the ice froze back over her head. And like she couldn't get out and her dad couldn't find her. And I think she was like 2 or 3 years old at this time. So like how would a small child know these details or that a creek would even freeze back or the water would even freeze back over your head if it was broken? She couldn't have just made that up is the point I'm trying to make. All of us have seen weird things on this property because we all live in the same holler. Mom asked me the other day, she said, have you heard about, I'm not going to say his name. She said, have you heard about Hannah's baby talking to ghosts, his little ghost friends? And I was like, what? No, because he was outside running around down there and we could hear him. And Mom said, oh, he must be talking to his little ghost friends. I was like, what are you talking about? She said, you haven't heard? And I was like, no, give me the tea. You know, I want to know all about it. He said that while Hannah was in the hospital a few weeks ago, I guess Gunner was telling his papa and Nene that he has this old lady that visits him every single night. He's like 4 years old. His papa asked him, you know, show me how you talk to her. How do you get her to come talk to you or whatever? And so he said, all right, Papa, I'll show you. I'll show you what you do. You got to go lay down in bed and turn out all the lights and make it dark. And you get under the covers and you go to sleep. He said, you got to lay real still and be real quiet and go to sleep. He said, and then when you wake up, she'll be there. Is that not the creepiest you guys have ever heard? What do you mean she'll be there? It was really hard for me to go to sleep that night and the night after and the night after, like almost every night. That's all I can think about now. Like, what if I wake up and she's there? Because, I mean, she's my neighbor. She lives right there. Okay, and that's not it. There's more. There's more. He's been seeing other ghosts as well. It gets deeper because I messaged his mom and I was like, hey, are you okay with me telling this story? And she said, yeah, absolutely. And I said, I'd love to hear from you what's been going on. That one day they're sitting there and her son starts pointing outside and she says, hey, Mommy, do you see that man outside? And so Hannah's like, what man? No, there's nobody out there. It's probably just James, which is my dad. She said, he's probably just James out there working. And he was like, no, Mommy, it's not. That's not James. There's a man outside and he's got red pants on. Fancy red pants. And so he said, come look, Mommy, come look at this man. And so Hannah goes over there and looks and there's nobody there's nobody out there, but I said his name. I'm sorry. But he swore that there was somebody in fancy red pants walking up the driveway. And that's so weird because there's like this old family photo of my, I think, great-great-grandfather. And he always wore these fancy red pants. I kid you not. I guess he's seeing our great-great-grandfather? That's just crazy to me. And that's not it. She said that he was also seeing 2 little girls in the woods. That might be the creepiest one to me. I don't like that. So, she said that she was going to have to remember exactly what he said about that one. So I'll ask her again and see if she will tell me more information about that if you guys want to hear it. Anyways, good luck sleeping tonight. I'm scared. If I gotta be scared, y'all gotta be scared. Love y'all.
Most hikers on the Appalachian Trail worry about the usual things. Bad weather, a twisted ankle, maybe getting lost after dark. But my mother and sister once ran into something far stranger. 2 boys came running down the trail screaming that a naked man with a bow and arrow was waiting at the summit of Blood Mountain. At first it sounded ridiculous, until a man with a bow and arrow appeared, coming straight toward them on the trail, and the events that followed are still unsettling to this day. This isn't my story. It belongs to my mother and my sister, and it happened many years ago, long before cell phones, long before trail apps, and long before it was easy to call for help from deep in the mountains. My mother has since passed on, but before she did, she and my sister would still talk about that hike sometimes, always quietly, the way people do when they're not completely sure what they experienced, only that something about it wasn't right. It was a perfect fall day in North Georgia, the kind of day hikers dream about. The air was cool and crisp without being cold, and the mountains were just beginning to turn with autumn color. Red and orange leaves flickered through the tall hardwood trees like little flames in the sunlight. My mother and sister had decided to hike a portion of the Appalachian Trail using the Byron Herbert Reese approach, climbing up toward the summit of Blood Mountain. It was supposed to be a peaceful day outdoors, the kind of hike you remember for the views at the top and the quiet satisfaction of making it there. The trail began easily. They talked as they walked, enjoying the steady rhythm of boots against the dirt trail. Sunlight filtered through the branches above them, and the forest was alive with the gentle sounds of wind in the leaves and distant birds calling somewhere deeper in the woods. For a while, everything felt calm, normal. Then they encountered 2 boys on the trail, maybe middle school age. The boys were practically running up the mountain, laughing, flushed, and breathless from the climb. My mother and sister stepped aside to let them pass. The boys rushed by with the kind of boundless energy kids seem to have on a trail, barely slowing down. And just like that, they disappeared around the next bend. My mother and sister continued their climb, thinking nothing of it. As they got closer to the summit, the trail began to change. The easy incline faded into steep, rocky switchbacks that zigzagged sharply up the side of the mountain. The trees grew thinner. The forest opened up. The ground became uneven and covered with loose stones. Now the hike demanded more focus, careful footing, steady breathing, one step at a time. Then they heard it. Footsteps, running, fast, too fast for that steep trail. Suddenly the same 2 boys came tearing back around the bend. But this time they weren't laughing. They were screaming, real screaming. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide with fear. One of them shouted as they rushed past, "There's a naked man with a bow and arrow at the top." The words hung in the air. Strange. Unbelievable. Almost absurd. My mother and sister tried to stop them. They told the boys to slow down, to calm down, to walk with them, safety in numbers. But panic had already taken over. The boys kept running. Within seconds they were gone, disappearing down the trail and back into the trees. And suddenly the mountain felt very quiet. Too quiet. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then they saw him. A figure appeared on the trail above them, coming around the rocky switchback, walking quickly downhill. A man, and in his hands, a bow and arrow. He was fully clothed, but he was moving fast. Faster than most hikers would risk on that steep rocky terrain. His pace was deliberate, almost urgent. He was coming straight toward them. The distance between them closed quickly. Every step he took seemed louder in the quiet mountain air. My mother and sister exchanged a glance, the kind of look between two people who both realized something at the same time. Something about this wasn't right. When the man reached them, they stepped off the narrow trail to let him pass. There really wasn't anywhere else to go. The trail had trees pressing in on both sides, so they waited, standing there, watching him approach. As he passed them, my mother did what hikers usually do. She nodded politely. A simple greeting. Just a small gesture of courtesy between strangers on a trail. But the man didn't say a word. He stared at them. Not angry, not friendly, just staring. His expression was completely unreadable, and his eyes lingered on them just a moment longer than felt comfortable. The bow and arrow in his hands was unmistakable. Then he kept walking, descending the trail with that same relentless pace. Within seconds he disappeared into the trees. My mother and sister stood there for a moment, listening, waiting, until they couldn't hear his footsteps anymore. Only then did they continue down the mountain, walking slowly, carefully, and staying very aware of every sound in the woods around them. Later, something even stranger surfaced. Newspaper articles began appearing, stories from other hikers, accounts of people who had encountered a naked archer on Blood Mountain around the same time. The details were always strange, always unsettling, and never fully explained. Many years have passed since that hike. There haven't been recent reports of the mysterious archer, but Blood Mountain still carries a reputation. It's a place of incredible beauty, but it's also a place surrounded by stories, disappearances, unexplained encounters, and strange moments hikers can't quite explain. And whenever my mother and sister talked about that day, they remembered the fall leaves, the screaming boys, and the silent man with the bow and arrow, who appeared out of nowhere, on the side of a mountain that has always seemed to hold more stories than anyone can fully explain.
If you grew up in Appalachia, chances are you've heard of this before. This is the type of story that gets passed down through campfires, through dinners, through hunting with your grandfather, or if you're me and my cousin, it came straight from our grandmother's mouth. Nonetheless, the warning of this story is always the same. If you hear somebody calling your name from the woods late at night, no you didn't. That's probably one of the oldest rules in the book when it comes to Appalachia. I know it might sound very dramatic from an outside standpoint, but people from Appalachia say that with a complete straight face, because it's true. Honestly, it's not just one of those stories that is like, oh, this is like a funny little paranormal ghost story. No, this is one that reminds you to lock your doors at night. So the story begins somewhere around eastern Kentucky in the 1930s. Back then, life in the mountains looked very different than it does today. I'm talking about communities that were so isolated that you would have to walk miles through dense forests to reach your nearest neighbor. Once darkness fell, darkness really was upon you. There was not any streetlights or any kind of lamps or anything like that. No, you were in complete and utter darkness. Of course, you did have your little lantern, but that didn't really help much either. Darkness is so thick that it literally cuts everything beyond the lamplight. One of those small mountain communities named a young girl named Ruth. Ruth was not known to be very reckless at all. She was more known to be the curious cat. Most people stayed close to the familiar trails around the area. Ruth liked to explore. She loved to spend all of her afternoons exploring old logging roads, old trails that most people don't even dare go near. And there was this one place where people told her specifically not to go. That was a place called Dead Man's Hollow. That name alone sounds very wrong. The weird thing about that place is that nobody could ever come to an agreement about why it was called Dead Man's Hollow. But no matter what the elders told Ruth, she was not into superstitions and she just went along anyways. One evening, just before sunset, little Ruth decided that she was going to go explore Dead Man's Hollow and see for herself what this whole mystery was about. The trail leading there was this old logging road that had not been used for years. Trees had become reclaiming parts of it. There were branches just like overhanging through it. It didn't look like a road at all. At first, everything seemed completely normal. You could hear the birds settling down for the evening and the unmistakable sound of insects in the bush. As she was walking, listening to the crunching of her own feet on the gravel, she heard somebody say, "Ruth." Like anybody, that sound stopped her instantly. She stopped and she listened, and she realized this voice is the voice of my mom. It wasn't just a similar sounding voice. It was the warmth of her mother's voice. It was the tone of her mother's voice. The same voice that she had heard every day for her whole entire life. There was no mistaking it for anything else. But the problem was that her mother was at home nearly 2 miles away. Ruth just stood there trying to make sense of it. Like, maybe she heard something else. Maybe it was just the wind. Then she heard her name again. But this time it was closer than it was before. Without really thinking about it, she started walking towards the voice. Looking back on it later, Ruth said that this is when she started to feel really uneasy. Every time that she would go to walk nearer to the sound, it would just end up sounding further and further away. Nothing extremely dramatic, but just enough to where she was never able to fully reach the voice. Always sounded like it was just beyond the next ridge, just around the corner, just up a little bit further. But it never was. Somehow she kept following the voice. The deeper that she went into Dead Man's Hollow, the quieter the forest became. Birds disappeared first, then the insects, then all the other sounds. By then, the sun had completely vanished, so she was out there in the dead of night. But the voice still seemed to call her deeper and deeper into the forest, and as if she were in some kind of trance, she continued to follow the sound for hours. Then suddenly, it stopped, and Ruth found herself standing in the middle of the forest where she did not recognize anything at all. That's when she noticed something watching her. It was a woman standing between 2 trees several yards away from her. At first glance, she looked normal, almost. She wore an old-fashioned dress that seemed decades out of place. Her skin looked unnaturally pale beneath the moonlight, and her smile was so big, it could not have been a normal person. Like, there's no way. It wasn't like cartoonishly wide, if you know what I'm saying. Like just too big, just barely too wide to make it seem uncanny valley. Then Ruth noticed the woman's eyes. They reflected the same way that a deer's eyes might in the headlights of a vehicle. Human eyes don't do that, yo. So as Ruth is just standing there staring at this thing, taking it all in, the woman speaks. She looks dead at Ruth and she says, "You aren't supposed to be here." Ruth did not stay to ask questions. She turned around and she got out of there. She did not stick around and wait like a horror movie character for any explanation at all. She ran, but she wasn't running alone. Something was following her. But according to Ruth, what was chasing after her did not sound like footsteps. It sounded like this thing was just gliding. When she got the bravery to look behind her, she saw these figures just gliding through the trees, keeping pace with her. It was weird to her because they never actually got any closer and they never actually got any further away. They literally just were keeping pace with her. By the time she finally got out of the forest, dawn was breaking. So morning was already there. That's not even where it ends, okay? Because when Ruth gets home, her family is in hysterics. They start crying, screaming, freaking out. She just thought that it was because of all the injuries that were on her, because as she was running, she was crashing through the branches. She had scratches, bruises, cuts all over her. But that's not why they were freaking out. According to Ruth, she had only been gone for one night. According to her family, though, she had been missing for 8 days. 8 entire days. Search parties were sent out. Neighbors and community members had been combing the mountains looking for her. People started to even assume that she was dead. The local sheriff was actually beginning to, cease any kind of search party. Yet Ruth insisted that she had only been gone for a few hours. And things only got stranger upon her return. She stopped sleeping, covered every single window in the house, and she refused to go outside after dark. Not even just go outside. She refused to look outside when it got dark. Ruth continuously would ask her family if anybody was out looking for her. And her family was confused by that, so they asked her what. And she just kept saying, the woman. Is she out there? Is she looking for me? Is she coming for me? Weeks go by, and then Ruth's brother claims that he sees this woman standing at the edge of their property. A woman wearing old-fashioned clothes, just staring at the house. When he yelled at her, she just kind of vanished behind the trees. Soon neighbors began to report similar sightings, as well as hunters. Even travelers reported seeing this apparition. Children would tell stories to their parents about this woman dressed in weird clothes, smiling at them in an abnormal way from the tree line. And then one winter night, Ruth disappeared again. This time there was more evidence because this time there was fresh snow on the ground. So there was footsteps. They followed these footprints all the way to Dead Man's Hollow. Searchers followed these footprints for miles and miles and miles until randomly they just stopped. And they stopped in a place where there is nothing. It was like Ruth had taken one step and then just completely turned into dust particles. Despite extensive search efforts, Ruth was never found. Years later, hunters would still tell the story of this woman standing near Dead Man's Hollow. A pale woman in old clothing, one whose smile never looked normal. Some of them claim that if you stuck around for too long, you would hear her call your name. Never in her voice, it was always in a voice of somebody that you knew and loved. Whether that be your mother, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your friend. Basically whatever voice it could use to make you follow it. That's why some families in Appalachia still repeat that old warning. You hear somebody calling your name late at night, you better make sure you know absolutely certain who it is. Because sometimes, according to the mountains, it's not always who you think it is.
Tell you, this place is absolutely wild. I'm out here filming the Doppelganger Part 2, and I'm just standing here making my film, and I'm starting to realize that the woods have gone completely quiet around me, okay? And that is usually a really bad sign. So I was trying to pay attention to what I was doing, but at the same time pay attention to my surroundings. And I started getting that whistling effect again, where something's whistling, and it's not a bug, it's not a bird, I promise you. I'm out here a lot. I'm kind of hoping I'll hear it again, so I'm keeping the phone kind of on ready. Of course, it's right when I go to take a drink, I had put my phone down, and it starts going off. So I started whistling back, and everybody says you're not supposed to do that, but I want to see if this thing comes out. Let's find out, right? Okay, listen up. Okay. So I waited about 10 more minutes and it didn't come back. I'm getting intermittent patterns of silence and then no silence. Some of the birds are starting to chirp again, which is good. It's a good sign, but that's your example of the Appalachian Mountains, guys. I wish I could explain it to you, but I can't.
There's a good reason why people close their curtains at night in the Appalachian Mountains. There are things in those woods that are terrifying. And one of those things happened to be the Appalachian Windigo. Now, there was this man named Jim. Jim decided one day that he was going to sell everything he had and buy some acreage of land in the Appalachian Mountains and start this homestead. So Jim finds this good piece of land and he moves there, builds a cabin and several structures. And for a year, his life was amazing. He said one day, though, he gets a knock on his cabin door. And he said he opens the door. On the other side of the door was this older gentleman. And he said the gentleman starts speaking. He said, "Hey, my name is Fox. I live not too far from here. And I wanted to check on you because I know you're all alone out here. And things can happen to people who are alone in the woods." And Jim was kind of like, why is this guy saying all this and stuff? So he said the guy continued to talk to him. But all he could think about was the fact that this guy, Fox, looked exactly like his father, who had passed away when he was a young boy. And he said it was just very, very eerie. It was like talking to his father. So he said, finally, the guy said, "You be safe out here. I'll see you later." And he said the way he said it was kind of creepy. So he said this guy, Fox, he just walked away and took off into the woods, and he never seen him again. A couple months after this, he said, one night he was asleep in his bedroom, and he awakes to this sound of scratching. And he said the scratching sounds were coming from his window. And he said when he looked over in the direction towards his window, he sees the shadow appear, and it's almost in the shape of a person. And he said the shadow just moved across the wall all the way around him to the other side of his bed. And he said the next thing he knows, something was holding him down. He could not move, and he was panicking and freaking out. And then he said, all of a sudden, it was gone. And he got up and he said, that must have just been a really crazy dream. So he said, this kept happening to him. He kept having this, what he thought at the time was a dream. Well, one day he said he was out on his land setting up some traps. And he said he happened to notice in the snow there was all of this weird movement. And he said, what is that in the snow? So he goes a little closer, he grabs a tree branch, and he moves the snow over. And he said out popped several rats. And he said that's when he realized these rats were eating a deer carcass. And he said it was just so sickening that he had to start vomiting. And he said as he was bent over vomiting into the snow, he looks up, and there is the guy Fox. And he said the guy was just standing there staring at him. And he's like, hey, what are you doing out here on my property? And he said Fox looked at him and said, you seen the deer? And he said, yeah. And he said, you see, a lot of weird things happen in these woods. And then he said he turned and just walked away. So he said, that was like a really weird encounter. Like, did he have something to do with that deer or whatever? So he said, next couple of days, he really, really kept having these nightmares where he would see the shadowy thing in his room. And then he said this one particular night, he was sitting by the fireplace and he was just contemplating life. And he said, all of a sudden, the next thing he knows, he just stood up. He started walking towards the door. He opened the front door of the cabin and he starts walking out into the woods. And he said it was weird. It was like he knew what he was doing, but he couldn't control it. And something was just drawing him into the woods deeper and deeper. So he said finally he stops and he's just surrounded by trees. It's completely dark. And he said the next thing he knows, he hears his father's voice say, son, come here. It's your father. And he said out of the shadows steps that guy Fox again. And he said, it's me. I'm your father. Come here. Come give your father a hug. And Jim's just kind of like, no, you're not my father. My father's not here anymore. And he's like, no, I am your father. Like, I've been here the whole time. Come give me a hug. And he said he just like didn't trust this guy. He thought he was crazy. And he said all of a sudden, this guy's skin began to peel off. And he said that's when he could see this wasn't his father. This wasn't a man. This was this pale, white, skinny creature with sharp teeth, sharp claws, and these bright yellow eyes. And he said, this thing said to him, I said, come here now. And the voice had changed. So he said, next thing he knows, like he was able to get awareness again. And like he was aware of his situation where he was at. He turns and he just takes off running. He gets back to his cabin. He jumps in his truck and he leaves his cabin and just abandons it. And he said after a couple of weeks, he didn't know what to do. So he went to this Native American man in town that everyone said was a medicine man. And he told him like what had happened and stuff. And he said, this Native American man said to him, what you've seen was the Windigo, what my people call the Windigo. And he said, he has chosen you. And the reason he hasn't taken you yet is because he wants you to be as afraid as possible. Because to them, the more fear you have, the better you taste to them. And he will continue to follow you and, harass you until he finally gets you afraid enough that he will take you. So Jim said he decided to sell the cabin and he never went back there again. And he said still to this day, he can hear scratching sometimes at his window and he will see the shadowy figure in his room at night.
How many people can disappear from one small area before people start paying attention? What is happening in this small corner of Appalachia? Over the past several years, multiple people have seemingly vanished without a trace in the same general area along the West Virginia and Kentucky border. In September of 2020, Charles Chuck Taylor vanished after being seen leaving his apartment at the Williamson Towers in Williamson, West Virginia. Then, just a few months later, Mike Dixon vanished from the Tug Fork Apartments in Belfry, Kentucky. In June of 2022, Brittany Hornduff walked away from her home in Kermit, West Virginia, and was never seen again. Different people, different ages, different circumstances, but the same small region and the same unanswered questions. How do so many people disappear from such a small area and leave behind so few clues?
Families are still waiting. Communities are still wondering. And until these answers come, these cases deserve to be remembered and not forgotten.
Dog, I'm not gonna lie. It is creepy as here. Look at this. Look at this. Watch. That's how dark it is outside. Like, dude. Oh. I can see. You can tell why there's horror games made in the woods. Like, I got a headlamp, but like who turned the lights off? And it's so quiet. It is dead quiet out here. I got out to pee for a second. I'm gonna sit in the car until sunrise. I ain't going outside.
Them people who been up in the Appalachia for generations and generations and ain't never come down be on this app telling y'all stay out the mountains. Stay out the mountains. And then y'all think that that's the green light to go and see what's up there. You gonna find out. You ain't got to tell me twice.
If you ever felt the chill of something watching you in the woods, you're not alone. Don't forget to subscribe and share your own encounter in the comments below. The mountains are watching. Are you? As always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.